If people get nothing from this show, but they just get this, and it's not rocket science, but I see that a lot of people don't really live what they preach. Relationships over transactions. If you focus on building relationships, being your true authentic self, not putting out a front, which I got to be honest, I've been guilty of in the past, right? Is like, just, man, be your real authentic self, warts and all, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to fail. But it's how you come back, right? So just focus on building relationships with the right people. That's why I was so excited to be on this show, to be quite honest, David, because you said, hey, this isn't your typical, like, you shared with me your vision for the show, what you're building here. And I think we need to be having more real, authentic conversations.
David Kurz looking clean with his whole sales team. We ain't come to talk nonsense. It's all about the process and profits until we make $1 billion from deposits. He never slacked and teach him to take action. So far from whacking, never gave up his passion. Can't catch him lacking, damper down on his fashion. He forever stacking, running up all the cash. Real estate mastermind. Check out his book, he gave us the blueprint. Really can't hate the grind. Put in the work, no making excuses. Quitting's a waste of time. You made it this far, don't make your life useless. Pull up and taste the wine. He got the flavor, mixing the juices.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Freedom Achievers Podcast. My name is David Adam Kurz. I am your coach. I am your mentor. I am the CEO and founder of the Freedom Organization. Super stoked to be with you today. Thank you once again for tuning in and listening to this show. This show is designed to bring top-level individuals in the business world to the stage to be able to share not only their personal insights on how they've grown their businesses, but maybe even some of the struggles and troubles that they've gone through and the hiccups that they've had in their lives to get to where they are today. And we tap and dive into these things to make sure that you know it and to let you know that you are not alone. And hopefully you walk away from this massively inspired. If you're listening to this right now, I'm going to need you to do a couple things. First, I'm going to need you to hit that subscribe button, because if you don't hit the subscribe button, you will never know when I'm posting stuff. And that doesn't matter if you're listening on audio or you're watching it on video and YouTube. Please hit that subscribe button. Give us a follow. Let us know that you're interested in what we're doing. Now, additionally, you can like, comment, and please be sure to share it out with some friends that might need to hear this too. Today, I have the honor of bringing a good buddy of mine, Alex Pardo, to the table. Alex specializes in storage facilities, investing in storage facilities, which, to be quite honest with you, I always thought was much harder than anything else because of how few of them they are in the world, right? But maybe I'm wrong. Today, we're going to get a lesson. Alex, man, thanks for doing this with me today.
My brother, I'm so excited to be here, man. I've always just admired the work that you do in our community here, and I love your involvement as an entrepreneur. The fact that you're coaching, the fact that you're doing this podcast. So just super excited to just be an open book, share from the heart, and hopefully impact the people listening and watching.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. So let's dive into some stuff, man. You're a realtor. You've been doing real estate for a minute now. What got you into storage facilities? Let's dig into storage facilities, because I 100% guarantee that when some people heard this right now, they were like, great, another opportunity for investment, another thing that I can listen to that might potentially help me retire with some wealth, with some access, with some money, talk to me about it.
Absolutely, man. So
storages, man.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Let me tell you, it's one thing you said that you've always thought storage is harder. It's the exact opposite. And we'll get into that, brother. There's so many reasons and benefits that I would take storage over single family any day and twice on Sunday. Not that there's anything wrong with the single family asset class. That's how I got started back in 2005. I built a wholesaling operation, which I did a lot of wholesaling and fix and flip. I've always had my realtor's license. But around 2019-20, because of the mastermind that I lead, I was coaching entrepreneurs that had storage facilities. And I got an inside look, David, as to the simplicity of the operations. And I started to get really intrigued because, it's interesting. When I got into real estate, I got in because I wanted cash flow and I wanted to build wealth. And, ironically, I got into wholesaling, which didn't provide cash flow, and it wasn't really providing wealth, right? It was a transactional business. So I felt myself constantly chasing deals. And honestly, man, around 2017, 18, even though I had a successful wholesaling operation in South Florida, I got tired of the grind and the hustle. And I said, I remember at one point we were on vacation and my team member, like there was a fire going on and I was on a cruise and I found it challenging to be present with my family. And I told my wife, I said, this is not what I signed up for, right? Like, yes, we've made a lot of money and we've built a nice living for ourselves, but like, where's the cash flow? Where are the assets? And I realized, David, I was playing the wrong game, right? I was chasing single family deals and I wasn't really building wealth and building cash flow. So long story short, man, around 2020, I decided, hey, I'm gonna shut down the wholesaling operation, right? It wasn't due to COVID. COVID was just the accelerator. I had made the decision in 2019, I'm going to unwind the team. I had built a team of 9 people. My overhead grew to about $40,000 a month, right? So I had to do a couple deals just to break even. It's like, this is not aligned with the vision I've created for myself. So brother,
Alex, I'm gonna stop you right there because this is crazy, because I see people all the time in the wholesaling and flipping world showing this lavish opportunity, beautiful office. Like they've got their little Grant Cardones on the phone and like banging out phone calls, trying to get people out there, and they're putting up bandit signs.
Yeah.
Excuse me. They're showing you this world, and you're telling me no. Like, yeah, we did very well. We made money, but I had no time for family. It wasn't what I signed up for. We had to do X, like overhead was off the chain. Like,
yeah, man. My days consisted of being on sales meetings, training. While I wasn't the one on the phone speaking to motivated homeowners or talking to cash buyers, I was managing the team and putting out fires. And brother, I fell into the trap of wanting to scale and go bigger because I thought going bigger was being better. And what I realized is that bigger is not better. Better is better, right? And I was playing a game that I saw others in mastermind communities that I was a part of. I wanted to go out there, and maybe it was an ego thing. I wanted to go out there and build this big business to prove that I could, but that's not what I really wanted. Like I wanted lifestyle. I want to, this might shock a lot of people listening, and it might even surprise you. Real estate is not my passion. I enjoy real estate. I like it, but it's a vehicle and a tool that allows me to work with people and impact the right people, right? Like I get so much more fulfillment and joy when somebody reaches out to me and tells me, hey, Alex, that podcast on the Flip Empire show, that really impacted me because of XYZ. Or, hey, Alex, this, not the next deal, right? Like the next deal is just the next deal. And then we're going to chase the next one. So
it's transactional. It's like, honestly, it's, I call realtors who treat, and you were in a different world. You're in that flip wholesale world. So it truly was transactional.
Yeah.
The normal real estate agent, unfortunately, treats it very transactional, and the normal real estate agent dealing with your normal homeowner, normal price points and all this other stuff, they forget the actual relationship part of the business and they treat it transactional, right? And I call it these are your McDonald's realtors. That's what I call them, right? Because if you go to McDonald's and you order a number 2, right? By the way, the number 2 has been exactly the same since I was 4 years old, right? Like it's never changed. You know exactly what you're getting. And at the end, no one's ever going to call you to check to see if you might want to try the number 3. Yeah. It's just always going to be about the number 2. And so, a lot of realtors are doing this and they're treating it transactionally. And so the problem in regular residential real estate is if you do that, you're always chasing the next deal. You're saying that's the same exact problem in wholesale and flipping, because we're not creating a relationship with the person. It's really about the house. Yeah. And so it's like, once that deal's over, that's it.
It's
the
over.
Next one.
That's right. If people get nothing from this show, but they just get this, and it's not rocket science, but I see that a lot of people don't really live what they preach. Relationships over transactions. If you focus on building relationships, being your true authentic self, not putting out a front, which I got to be honest, I've been guilty of in the past, right? It's like, just, man, be your real authentic self, warts and all, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to fail. But it's how you come back, right? So just focus on building relationships with the right people. That's why I was so excited to be on this show, to be quite honest, David, because you said, hey, this isn't your typical, you shared with me your vision for the show, what you're building here. And I think we need to be having more real, authentic conversations.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so sorry I cut you off and threw you off, but then so now you're doing this transactional business, and now you're like, overheads up to here, and you're like, it's 2020, the world's kind of collapsing right now. We don't know what's next. Wow, great opportunity to scale back.
That's right, man. That's right. I made the decision in 2019. Hey, I'm going to start to unwind this operation. I think it was May of 2020. So 2-3 months right after like the world shut down, right? Where I said, hey, I'm done, right? I made an agreement with my COO at the time, my chief operations officer, and he took over kind of what was left of the business. I sold off some of the assets. And then my coach at the time, David, gave me some of the wisest advice, and I'm so glad I listened to him. He said, Alex, take some time off to enjoy the fruits of your labor and to really reflect and figure out what's the next path for you. Allow yourself time to just sit back and surrender to whatever God wants you to do next. And I was getting ready to like go conquer the next mountain. Like, let me get into multifamily. Let me go build this business. Let me do that. So, brother, I took about 6 months off, and then it hit me. I'm like, storage is for me. And there's so many reasons for that. And if you want, we can dive into it now. But, one of the things I loved about storage is it's a business with the benefits of real estate. And it's a very simple business. There's no toilets. There's no tenants. There's no, we don't have to evict people, right? There's lien laws, which means that if they don't pay within 30 to 60 days, depending on where the facility is located, we can just auction off their things. I didn't need a big team or a lot of overhead. So just to kind of fast forward and then we can rewind, I currently own 3 storage facilities, about 813 units, 104,000 square feet. And by the way, those numbers don't mean anything, but I just share for context that I don't have any employees to run that storage portfolio, right? And I don't have any overhead. So the operating cost of a storage facility is about 30 to 35%. Right. So if you juxtapose that or compare that to multifamily, 45 to 55% operating expenses is what it takes typically in that commercial asset class. So, man, life is just much simpler. I'm more focused on now coaching people that want to get their first storage facility. And so we can dive into like why I like storage over a lot of other assets.
Yeah, let's dig into that right away. The first thing that I think about is a lot of the stuff that you just said, nobody to kick out, very simple. People bring their stuff, they put it away, they lock it, they leave. No one's spending the night, things of that nature. I mean, you might have some light bulbs to change. You might have to auction off some things every once in a while. But how many people, like in my brain, I was immediately thinking, anytime I've ever been to a storage facility, there might be 2 people there. Like, in the middle of the day, running this entire like big cube looking building on the side, of, La Cuarenta, you know what I mean? And you're like,
I get it.
And you're like, hey, can I get some boxes and, blah, blah, blah. And, and that's it. And do you have one of those little push carts so I can take my stuff? And they walk you over to the storage room. They go, this is it. Check it out. Inspect it. All good. All right, cool. Hey, let me sweep this out for you real quick. And then it's yours. And you stock all your shit in there, you sweat your ass off in there, and you close it up. Air-conditioned facility, but there's 1 to 2 people running the show, and then on the weekends, nobody. I remember stopping by the facilities on the weekend. I got my little code, I punch it on the outside, I punch it on the door, I go inside, I got my key from my lock, and that was it.
Well, brother, I'll take it a step further, and this might surprise a lot of people listening. The model that we run is what's called an unmanned facility. Unmanned facility means that, like the traditional storage that you just explained, where you go and you punch your code in and you walk into the office to buy some boxes and, I have access to your unit. We don't have anybody physically on site. In fact, the 3 storage facilities I have, each one of them has an office and they're completely vacant. So one of the things about storage that I love is that 90% of the business is completely automated. I have 1 local part-time boots on the ground team member that once a week goes and does things like unit cleanouts, lock audits, overlocks when somebody doesn't pay. Outside of that, we have 1 local boots on the ground. I have a third-party management company that has an in-house call center, but I don't have anybody at the facility. like not even for 1 hour a day. So if somebody doesn't pay their rent, their code automatically locks them out and they can't access the facility. They can't access their unit, right? So the beauty of storage today versus 20, 25 years ago, David, when it used to be like the redheaded, ugly stepchild of commercial real estate, is that now banks have an appetite because they realize that technology has given us the ability to run and operate these facilities remotely. I have 2 in Mississippi and 1 in Amelia Island, which is just on the border of Florida and Georgia. And the truth is that this can be run from anywhere in the world with technology.
All right. So you just said you have 1 on Amelia Island and 2 where else?
2 in Mississippi.
Okay. So here's another great piece. You don't care if it's local or not because you don't have to be there.
That's right. In fact, I've been
but seriously, did you like hop on a plane, go to Mississippi, check it out, see it with your own eyeballs? Like
only when I got under contract. Only when I got under contract. So I don't want people thinking that you need to go like buying flights and like traveling all around the country looking at these things. You only do that once you get a facility under contract, because at that point, you're typically going to have about 60 days of due diligence. And that's when you would go out there and do what's called an on-site audit, right? But no, so I don't recommend ever anybody hops on a plane to go see a facility unless they have it under contract to purchase.
All right. So let's dig into this because now this is sounding unreachable, and we'll tap on why I'm saying that. But now this is sounding a little bit unreachable. So what are the costs? Average cost, average size, average unit count for a facility?
That's a great question because a lot of people ask me that and it doesn't have a black and white answer. So I'm sorry to disappoint. The reason I say that is because there's so many variables. There's facilities as small as 3,000-4,000 net rentable square feet that might have 18, 20 units. Then there's class A facilities that are hundreds and hundreds of units that are over 100,000 net rentable square feet. I like to focus on anything between 20,000 net rentable square feet all the way up to about 75, 80,000 net rentable square feet. Why do I say that? It's just as much time, effort, energy, and work to evaluate and analyze an opportunity that is 5,000 square feet versus 50,000. It's the same work and the same effort. The only difference is the pie is a lot bigger. So the way that you can structure these deals, David, is a lot easier the bigger the facility, generally speaking. Now, one thing you brought up that is a common objection I get when it comes to storage that I want to just go ahead and ask people to suspend their belief that you need a lot of money to buy a storage facility. Why do I say that?
Yeah, so that's where we're going with this, right?
Yeah, so and I knew that's where you're going.
Thinking, commercial real estate, unmanned operations, lots of doors, codes, technology, part-time employee. Okay, man, Alex's fucking sounds too good. Like, honestly, I'm starting to sound like an infomercial. Like, Alex, this can't be well,
so check it out. Let me address that. Let me hit on all those points. First, let's start big picture. I've been involved in 5 storage transactions in the last 3 years. 2 of them I've wholesaled because they just didn't fit exactly what I was looking for. By the way, when I said I want to try to avoid using like industry jargon, when I said wholesale, I simply mean I put the property under contract and then I assigned my contract or I closed on it and the same day I resold it, double closing. So that's what I mean by wholesale. So I've done that twice and I currently own 3. All 5 deals, I haven't used 1 penny of my own money. Notice I didn't say I didn't use any money, of my own money. Why do I say that? These deals can be structured many, many different ways. I'll give you an example. The first deal that I purchased in Mississippi, American Mini Storage, 43,000 square foot facility. We bought it for 1.592, almost 1.6 million. We got SBA financing of 85%. And I didn't have $375,000 to put into the deal, which was the 15% we needed down, plus some money to repair the property, what's called CapEx in commercial real estate. I brought in an equity partner. I gave him a piece of the deal, and he came in with the $375,000 that we needed to get into the deal. Now, I'm the owner operator, right? Like I'm the one spearheading the operations, But that's how I was able to get involved in my first deal without using any of my own money, right? So the great thing about storage, David, is that the pie is big enough where I don't need to own 100% of it. In fact, one of my mentors years ago told me, he said, I'd rather have 50% of a watermelon than 100% of a grape, right? And that always stuck with me. My second deal, we got seller financing for 90% of the purchase price. So what does that mean? The seller acted as the bank and he took on financing for 90%. And then I just got a private lender to lend the 10% I needed to get into the deal. So I share all that, not to get too much into the weeds unless you want to go there, but I just want people to open their minds that you don't need millions of dollars sitting in your money market or savings account in order to buy storage. Really, the money's the easy part. It's finding the right opportunities that is a little bit more challenging in this particular market. I'll kind of pause there in case you have any follow-up questions.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's okay to get into the weeds on this one, because I think that the average consumer, including real estate agents, including anyone that would be interested in something like this, the average consumer doesn't have the imagination necessary or the knowledge or the experience necessary to understand all these different aspects. So, you said one, we went under contract, I got an SBA loan, somebody else came in, bought some equity for the down payment, right?
Correct.
Basically. So they own a small piece of the large pie. But you're still the main owner. You're still the operator. Everything still operates through you. Second one, you get 90% seller financing. I think we can all understand that. This is simply when the seller, it plays the bank. They own it outright. They can finance the loan for you. And usually it's pretty decent terms. And it makes the seller very happy, because the seller now, they might not have all their money up front, but they're going to earn probably 3-4 times as much over the time period necessary if they go the length of the loan, right?
With much less work, by the way, and they avoid a potential tax liability, right?
Right.
Because
and if they got a foreclose on you, they own the facility again.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Exactly right.
And so it's favorable for some sellers that don't need all the capital to be in. 10% down payment, you went to a private lender, somebody that we would all go to if we're trying to flip or something like that. No one goes to a normal bank for a flip, right? So a private lender lends the 10%. They don't own any equity. They loaned you money. So that's now you own 100% of this particular storage facility, And so the idea here is, some people are going to call you, Alex, now, because I've got your website on here, storagewins.com. Some people are going to call you and they're going to say, Alex, man, listen, I just don't have that creativity. I'm going to need some help, right? So talk to me a little bit about how you're actually helping people do this, because look, I coach business owners, right? That's my passion. It's my thing. It's what I love to do, because I know at a very high level what it takes to gain people and convert them into sales. And I've been very good at it for a very long time. And I've coached it for a very long time. And I've paid coaches to really help me understand the psychology behind it all. But none of that has anything to do with what you do, right? Like what you do is very different, on a whole different playing field. And so if somebody wanted to say, okay, dude, like, listen, I need help. And interestingly enough, we had somebody here last week that was helping people multifamilies, right? So I'm interested to hear where you're at and how you're helping people get into storage facilities.
Yeah, David, no, man, it's a great point you bring up. And by the way, I agree with you, and I also disagree with you. And what I mean by that is that while it's a different playing field, to use your words, business is easy, entrepreneurs are complicated. And what I mean by that is that any business we get involved in, yes, there's going to be a knowledge gap, but a big part of the game, I think, is mental and mindset and your approach going in. And I don't share that to get too much into mindset, because I think we all understand the importance of just the way we think is going to impact, like our inner world is going to impact our outer world. So people come to me because there's a knowledge gap, right? And so one of the things that was on my heart last year is I always ask myself, when I set goals for the new year, when I reflect and look back, like what went well, what didn't. One of the questions I always ask is, how can I impact and serve God's people? God's other people? Like, how can I help and serve? And I've been coaching, similar to you, man. I've been coaching real estate investors since 2013. And I started coaching people that were in storage in 2019. And now that I've had 3.5 years of experience under my belt, I've decided I want to combine my experience and knowledge when it comes to coaching, which is what really fills me up, with storage, because like I played that rat race of single family, and I see so many people wanting to build a bridge from where they are to where they want to go, but not knowing how to do that. And to me, storage is the perfect vehicle to do that. So I started working with people one-on-one, where I essentially walk them through the business from A to Z. Now, you may or may not agree with me here, David, but like, I don't believe in what I call cookie cutter coaching. What I mean by that is that my strong belief is that God has given each and every one of us unique skills, gifts, talents. And I think the job of a good coach is to understand who he's coaching, figure out what they want, why they want it, and then help them build a plan, right, to get from where they are to where they want to go, using their particular unique skill sets, gifts, and talents. And so really that's what I started to do, is not cookie cutter coaching, but personally working with people one-on-one to figure out, hey, what is your goal when it comes to storage? Like, why do you want to get involved in this business? Let's get clear on that. Let me get clear on what assets and resources you have, financial or otherwise, right? Because just because you don't have money doesn't mean you don't have assets. And then teaching people the business from A to Z. And here's the crazy thing. We don't spend very much time at the beginning on how do you get financing? How do you structure deals? Why? Because it's all about lead generation at the beginning. We need opportunities before we can even get to that point. And like I said, we're in an environment right now where I think there's a lot of money and capital chasing opportunities, and it's more about finding the opportunity. So if you can find the right deals, trust me, putting the deal together is actually the easy part. But people come to me because they want specific guidance, and they're trying to bridge a knowledge gap of, okay, how do I even get involved in storage? How do I even do this from the get-go?
Right. And I feel like that knowledge gap is, one, where do I even find storage facilities? And two, how do I structure the deal? Like that's a big knowledge gap. At the end of the day, it's even a knowledge gap when it comes to regular home ownership, right? Like, how many potential home buyers out there still believe you need a 780 to buy a house, right? Like realistically, especially in the Latino community, huge, you know what I mean? And so, you have immigrants that come across the country that they're now able to buy a house. They're legal, they're this, they're that, whatever. They're able to buy a house, and they're afraid to, because it just seems so far away. It seems so, and no one's educating them. And you're here saying like, hey, yo, let's educate you. Let's help you put this together. Now, when you coach, are you a done with you system, or are you a done for you system?
No, it's definitely a done with you system. In fact, I believe in teaching people how to fish, not giving them the fish. So I'm not going out there and speaking to storage owners and structuring deals on your behalf and then just giving you a deal. That's called wholesaling, right? Like that's what wholesalers do essentially. So I want to teach people how to fish. I want to teach people how to learn this business of storage so that they can go out and live the kind of life they want, which the great thing about storage, man, is that it doesn't take 30, 40 hours a week. Unless you're trying to build a massive storage empire, I'm after 1 or 2 good storage facilities a year. Like, that is it. 1 to 2 deals a year, and that can generate a lot of cash flow for you. So, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Let's talk about that real quick. Yeah. Because you're saying 1 to 2 a year. By the way, huge change from where you were at, because no one's trying to wholesale once or twice a year.
That's right.
Because there's no money there. Like, at the end of the day, there's like, what do you make on a wholesale? Sometimes 30, 40, if you're lucky, right?
In single family?
Yeah.
Yeah, in single family, anywhere. I think our average profit per transaction the last year that I was wholesaling was about 21, 22 grand on a wholesale, not a fixed.
So that you can't do 1 or 2 of those a year, because then you're going to need another job, right? That's right. At that point, that's just a hobby, right? Yeah, that's right. But what you're saying is, no, this is a legit business at 1 or 2 a year, right?
We're talking just wholesale. So to give you an idea, in September, I wholesaled a 21,000 square foot facility in a little town called Natchitoches, Louisiana, which came from a direct mail campaign. I put that property under contract for $400,000, and I assigned that contract to somebody in my network, a good friend of mine, for $550. I made $150,000 on that one transaction, but that's not what's exciting. That particular facility that he bought for $550, once he raises the rents to match the market rents, that facility should be worth anywhere between $950 and almost 1.1. Right. So I'll kind of pause,
right?
I'll kind of pause there because there's different ways to make money in storage. You can go into storage wanting to wholesale to build up some cash if that's the season of life you're in, or you can go into storage saying, hey, I want to go in because what I'm really after is cash flow. There's people that I work with that are high income earners that don't need the cash flow, but they're looking for the equity explosion. So they're looking for what's called value add opportunities that you can get in, you can stabilize or turn around the facility by raising the rents, increasing occupancy, and then turning around and selling it for oftentimes 7 figures in profit. And that's not hyperbole, like I'm not exaggerating. That is not uncommon in storage. I'm not saying that's the norm every deal. That's certainly not what I'm saying.
Right.
And I think the size and the market dictates all of that. But I think those are some of the advantages of storage.
Isn't long-term, isn't the cash flow sexier?
100%.
Right? Like that's my belief, right? Because when I tell my wife all the time, when I turn 55, I'm done. And she laughs at me. She goes, there's no way that you're going to stop working, like with everything that you do. And so I told her, we had this conversation, super deep conversation over a glass of wine, right? Like sitting down in the backyard. And I go, listen, I'm not saying that I am going to like go fishing for the rest of my life, right? What I'm saying is that I might reduce what I'm doing to mentorship, some, sticking with my podcast, interviewing great people, maybe speaking on some stages, but I don't want to go crazy. Like, I want to build what I'm going to build by then. And if it requires more, then so be it. But the plan is 55. Cash flow is what gets me there.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, cash flow is what gets me there. Having the right amount of monthly income and disposable income to live the life that we choose to live, because a lot of people also think that cash flow's got to be a lot, and you got to like have retirements in a fucking mansion with a Rolls Royce. And for me, it's not. For me, retirement's in a beach house in Puerto Rico with a Range Rover, like, you know what I mean, or a Jeep even. Like, I don't fuck it. Like I'm in Puerto Rico. I'm trying to drive through the mountains and shit. Like I don't need a sexy car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, ideally, what everybody's vision is for retirement is very different. And cash flow is what gets me there. Owning property, holding it, building on equity, of course, right? Being able to look at all my projects and go, hey, if I get rid of these two, there's enough equity to buy something with more cash flow.
That's it.
That's the mentality.
That's the key right there. What you just said is that you want to have the mentality. Like there was a saying that was taught to me in real estate when I first got started. They said, don't wait to buy real estate and wait. Right. Like when I look back in my career, I never really say to myself, man, I'm glad I sold that one. Like, yes, there's a few instances in which I had some problem properties that I'm glad I sold. It was the right move. But sometimes I look back at the properties I wholesaled in Westchester, right, in 2012 and 13, where I was selling these things for like 120 to 150. And it's like, imagine if I would have kept those properties, right? Like,
if you would have kept those 10 years, my God.
Man.
Right?
So, but I don't regret it because at that time I needed the money to continue to build the business and live. So I don't regret that. But I think what you just said is so wise, David. It's trade up, right? Like you want to sometimes it makes sense to sell a property to take that equity, because I think one of the metrics that entrepreneurs and real estate investors don't look at too often is ROE, return on equity. Everybody always talks about ROI, but people very rarely do I find stop and say, hey, what's my return on equity? In other words, if I have $300,000 in equity in this house and I was to get my hands on that capital, could I deploy it and earn more than X? Right. So I have some buddies that have houses where they have $200,000 to $300,000 in equity and they're making $200-300 a month in cash flow. I'm like, dude, have you ever done the math? Take the 200, multiply it times 12, divide that then by the equity. What's your return on equity? Oftentimes their eyes go like this, and it's like 3-4%. I'm like, do you think if you had $300,000, you could put that into an opportunity earning more than 2 or 3%? And then they always say, oh, but what about the tax benefits? Yeah, including tax benefits. So I want people to understand that if you have assets right now, calculate your return on equity. Take a look at your cash flow, divide that by the amount of equity you have if you were to sell the property, and then ask yourself, can I redeploy that money into another opportunity that gives me more return on investment and that there's higher equity upside? That's what I found with storage.
That's awesome.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a tremendous amount of sense, and I'm sure there are people in here right now they're listening right now, and they own maybe 4 or 5 of these properties that are kicking them $300-400 a month, and they're thinking, let me go do that math real quick and see, if I can get into the storage game because of this, It's tremendous opportunity. Look, I think about the storage game, and it's a lot less work, but it's something similar to kind of, buying a building, right? You have, a couple hundred, doors, et cetera, et cetera. You said you have 800 some doors, right? Like it's like owning an apartment complex, except no one's living in it.
You don't have toilets. We're talking about concrete block buildings and metal garage doors with metal partitions most of the time. Like, it's a pretty simple business.
With those
and then
sensor lights, you walk through and they turn on when you walk.
That's it, brother. And then here's the other thing about storage, David. Think about the consumerism mentality in today's economy. Like, people are, I don't know about you, brother, but like, de vez en cuando I look at my wife and I'm like, another 4 Amazon packages to the house. Like, what is all this stuff? And every time I'm driving in the neighborhood, what was that?
We live in it. We live in a consumer nation, bro.
People are always buying. And then one of the things that surprised me about storage is that when it comes to the default rate of what, and challenge me here, fact check me, go out and look at all the commercial asset classes. Storage has the lowest foreclosure rate of any commercial asset class, at least as of the end of last year, right? Which is why banks have an appetite for it. But when we're in a declining market, which some people think after this election year, we may be going into a declining market, people need to downsize. Well, people don't want to get rid of their stuff. They want to save their stuff. So you might be surprised to hear, David, that the facilities that I've bought, each one of them has at least a handful of tenants that have been paying customers since the facility was built. We're talking over 20 years ago. It's a nuisance expense. When you think about paying $50 to $350 a month, oftentimes the pain of trying to find some friends to help you move, hire a truck, get all your stuff out of a 10 by 20, that pain is much higher than continuing to pay the $150 a month. Think about that.
Yeah. That's very interesting, because I was reading a book yesterday that talked about those pains and how you're solving those pains.
Yeah.
You know, so this is a solve for consumer pain. So as of 2021, it says it could be as low as 2%, that it's rare that a unit is sold at public auction, covers the amount owed. So that's really interesting.
You know why that is? Because if you look at all the commercial asset classes, the operating expense ratio. So let's say a facility generates $100,000 in revenue, just for simple math. On average, it's going to take between 30 and 35% operating expenses to run and operate that facility. So between $30,000 and $35,000. If you look at other commercial asset classes, that number is much higher. So your margin, like, it's got a lot of room for error in the storage business. Right. Like, it's kind of hard to mess it up. Like, you can mess it up, but it's kind of hard. Right.
Man, this is really, really good stuff. Really interesting stuff. Really great conversation. Because I mean, like, I'm Googling it now. I don't own any storage facilities, never looked into it. Right. So now you have me kind of light bulb thinking like, oh shit, man, maybe this might be a little shift in our business. Now I'm like going to the whiteboard real quick, starting to write shit down and tell my wife.
I love it.
And I know my wife, if I pull out the whiteboard, she's going to go, oh shit, what now?
Oh, here we go. I get it, man.
Here we go. Who did you speak to today?
If you don't mind, man, because I want to leave people with some like actionable steps they can take to go start like dipping their toes in the water when it comes to storage, because you can do this for free. And so if you allow me maybe 3 to 5 minutes, I can like share with people. I can share with people how they can actually go look for storage. So first thing I want you to think about is the market, right? I'm not looking for storage in Miami or LA or Vegas. I'm not looking at big cities. I'm looking at what's called secondary and tertiary markets. So if you just go to Google and you bring up your particular state, wherever you live, and you do, let's say, Florida cities by population, I'm targeting cities that have a population anywhere between 8,000 people to 75,000 people, right? The bulk of the markets that we target and look for mom and pop operated facilities are in these secondary, tertiary markets. Now, one word of caution. If you were to do that in Florida, it might bring up like Westchester. We all know that Westchester is really Miami, right? It's a sub city inside of Miami. So make sure that when you look at it on a map, it's not a city inside of a main city. You're looking for like the cities on the outskirts. You can go to Google. Perfect. Okay, so you're bringing this up here. So we can find a city, like as an example, go to Amelia Island, Florida. I want to say there's like 37,000 people in Amelia Island. That's where I own one of my facilities. It's about 45 minutes north of Jacksonville. That's an example of a secondary or tertiary market, right? And then one of the things that people can do is you go to Google Maps and then you type in Google Maps the city and state. And then there's a little button, David, under the search bar in Google Maps that says nearby. If people click on nearby and then type in self-storage, that's going to bring up all the storage facilities that Google recognizes in that particular secondary or tertiary market. So since you're showing your screen, can you go to Google Maps for a second?
This is Google Maps.
So no, actually type in.
Wait. Hold on one second. I was presenting. I was moving along as you were talking, but I realized that I only presented.
Okay, yeah, because I was looking at like a bunch of images of Florida.
Yeah.
There we go. All right, beautiful. So click on that button that says nearby, which is right under the word reviews, and then type in self-storage. So we're doing this in a market that I actually own and operate in. Okay, beautiful. So you see on the left, it's going to bring up all the storage facilities. One of the things people can do is focus on the ones that one of three things. Either they don't have a website, like right there, storage on Sadler as an example. They don't have a website, or they don't have good reviews, or they have low reviews. It's an indication that it's a mom and pop owner operator that might want to sell, because the majority of the operators that we talk to are in their 60s and 70s. They're getting ready to retire. So if you see a storage facility on Google Maps that doesn't have a website, or they have little to no reviews, which is not all that uncommon. And I realize in the example here, there's a lot of these have websites, but look at that one, simply self-storage, no reviews, no website. Those are the ones that you want to call. And there's only a couple pieces of information that you need to get. And again, we're kind of getting into the weeds here, but aside from building rapport and just connecting with the person, if you give me the unit mix of a particular facility, in other words, how many 5x5s, how many 5x10s, how many 10x10s, if you get me those details and you tell me how much you're charging in rent, with that information and that information alone, I can do what's called the back of the napkin analysis to determine more or less what's the value of that facility. Oh, it's that particular facility. I know it. I know the owner. It's right behind that mobile gas station.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So if you kind of go the street view a little bit, there it is. That's right behind the mobile gas station. So you can do this for free. Like one of the ways that I get deals is I smile and dial. I go to Google Maps. I look at a particular market and I start calling the facilities that don't have a website or that have little to no reviews. By the way, I also call ones that do have websites, but the ones that don't, it's just an indication that the owner's probably not fully treating it like a business. They're not really dialed in. So I'll kind of pause there, but
yeah, very interesting, man. Well, thank you for that. I think that's a tremendous amount of information that we've given people, and more than they probably expected. Listen, now you guys know how to find storage facilities, man. What are you gonna do, Alex, when you I gave you a little insight of where I'm gonna be when I have the right cash flow coming in. What's your plan?
Brother, I don't believe in retirement. I think when people, so let me not say I don't believe in retirement. I definitely believe in slowing down at some point. But I think when people stop living their purpose, they start dying. Right. I don't know. I saw a stat somewhere that when people retire and they just kind of like chill at home. And by the way, I know that
they start fading away. I get it.
Yeah, they start fading away, man. So like I want to impact people, man. Like I want to serve people. I want to help people. By the way, I don't want to come on here and make it sound like I have everything figured out. I have challenges and struggles just like you and everybody else. But I've also invested a lot in myself from a personal development perspective. I'm always surrounded by the right people. As a side note, make sure that you audit your inner circle. I forgot who it was that said it. You're the average of the 5 people you hang around with. But yeah, to circle back and answer your question, man, like I want to serve people. I want to continue to coach people. I want to impact people. Now, the vehicle that I choose to use to do that may look different. I shared with you before we started recording that really faith has always been very important to me, but the last year and a half, I've been much more loud about my faith, not in a preachy way or like, a pointing your finger type of way, but just kind of sharing with people what's on my heart. Because I believe that if you haven't gotten to know God, like if you don't have a relationship like that, man, that is the foundation for everything. Right.
What shifted? What made you kind of step up some?
That's such a great question. I think it's just allowing myself to like stop and be guided, like listen, like I think this is a blessing. And I think for many people, it's a curse. We're so plugged in. And by the way, for people not watching this, I showed my iPhone. I think people are so plugged into devices that it would do you so much good to put this aside for 30, 45 minutes, 60 minutes a day. And just like one of the things that is my favorite thing in the world to do is go on a think walk. I'll leave my phone. I'll go on a 3-mile walk in my neighborhood. And that's where I feel like I get downloads from God. I just listen, man. I just try to be present, aware. And I'm in a season right now where I'm surrendering and just sitting with what I'm feeling and allowing God to kind of guide me. And so when you ask what changed, I just had this hunger inside to want to continue to build my relationship with God. And then I'm a father. I have 2 little girls. And so I want to be the example and the role model for them. And I believe as parents, our main job, aside from keeping them alive when they're little, is helping them to understand and have a relationship with God. Like, I think that's one of the greatest gifts we can give our children.
That's awesome. We keep faith in our home. We're Jewish. And which is really interesting because I am a Jewish Puerto Rican, which is not, not a normality, if you will. Most people in the Puerto Rican culture are either Catholic or Christian. And so there's not, I don't think I know any other Jewish Puerto Ricans. My wife, even further away, she's Dominican and she converted with me to marry under the Jewish religion, and so we teach the kids, but they've only been doing it for so many years because we're a blended family, so for them it's a little bit of a little bit of a struggle, but the point is that faith is kept in the home. So listen, at the end of the day, you're Christian, you're Catholic, you're Jewish, whatever. It's all the same God to me, And so for me, it's, you're right. There is some value. There's a tremendous amount of value tied into keeping faith at home in how you raise your kids.
Yeah.
100%. I really, truly believe that. And, that's why for me, I know a lot of Jewish people look at Friday night, which is Shabbat, as a religious thing to do. For me, it's an opportunity to spend uninterrupted time with my family and show faith. Right. Yeah. And so, very different. Like this is the one time where these cell phones go in the box and, and we're not in a rush. There's no volleyball practice. There's no this, there's no that, we're like, listen, dude, it's Friday. Everybody knows where they need to be. we light some candles, we pray over bread, we eat some bread and honey, we sit down, we eat some good food, we laugh. I tell a bunch of really shitty dad jokes.
Dad jokes.
And yeah, man, really bad ones too. Really bad. Like, when it's so bad that the whole table laughs because it was way too bad.
Oh, those are the best ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I tell those dad jokes, So ideally, we just have a good time as a family. And I think it's very important. And so my dream is that my kids get older and they still look for us on Friday nights.
That's awesome.
And that one day I have grandkids and it's the grandkids are saying, hey, are we going to Abba's house for Friday? Like, it's Friday. Yeah. What time are we leaving?
Yeah.
And that's the dream, And so as much as I talk about Puerto Rico, that's going to have to be a second home as long as my kids remain local to where we live right now in South Florida.
That's beautiful.
And you're right. I think I've seen people retire and I've seen them wither away, which is why I said it's not going to be a full retirement, but I am going to slow down because I do want to live.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm not saying I don't live now. I'm just saying it's limited. Right. Like, because, when you're putting in the grind and you put in the work, you have to say, okay, forget balance. This is what I want to focus on right now. This is what I'm going to do. And these other things are important to me, like my family with Fridays and things like that. And so that I'm going to do no matter what. Yeah. But all my energy is going into this business I'm building and so forth and so on. So I want to get to the point again where I can host these podcasts, inspire people, speak on stages, maybe write another book. I don't know. I told my wife this was my last book that we just wrote. And she said, again, my wife knows me better. She looks at me, does a little chuckle and goes, sure. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Sounds good.
That's awesome,
and then I'm sitting out back having a barbecue with some friends last weekend. And I'm telling them a story about something in my history. And they're like, oh my God, is that going in the next book? And I'm like, oh shit, here we go. So I'm like, no, I wasn't going to write anymore. And they're like, what? Man,
I commend you. And I want to publicly on your show, just acknowledge you, brother, because God forbid something were to happen to you today or tomorrow. Think about what you're leaving behind. You're leaving behind this podcast. You're leaving behind pearls of wisdom. You've authored books. Like, so for those listening, like, think through your mortality, right? Like, as cliche as it sounds, like, and I find that sometimes I'm guilty of taking things you take for granted. We're going to wake up tomorrow and take a breath. Right. And I think sometimes when you're just present and you're conscious, it allows you to lean into gratitude and not take things for granted. And then think through, like, hey, if I'm no longer here, like, what have I left behind, right? Like, what values and morals have I instilled in my children? What's the family unit like? What resources have I left behind for people to live a better life? And this may or may not resonate with you, and that's okay. But like, the older I've gotten, David, the more I think through those types of things.
Yeah, it 100% resonates with me. I know that I'm put on this planet to change lives. And so our company mission is to change the lives and businesses in a positive manner for over 1 million people. So, I just joke and say I got till I'm 55 to get that done. You know what I mean? But
and chances are, even knowing you, man, even beyond 55, it might look different, but you'll continue to impact people.
It's going to look different. 100% it's going to look different. And I know that I'm going to get to the point where I'm going to want to spend significant time with my wife and grandkids and so forth and so on. And I am on 100% goal to build a business that creates that sustainability.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not just going to stop and then wither away. I'm going to keep going, working out, taking care of my mind, taking care of my body, my soul, my faith, and keep inspiring people. If I continue to inspire people, I might live to be 100. God might look at me and go, no, dude, we can't let you go yet.
There you go.
So that's the goal. Plus I'm 10 years older than my wife, and my wife's genes, like everyone in her family, lives forever. And so I told her that I have to live to 110 because God forbid I leave her behind.
How does she respond to that, by the way?
I'm not going to have these old guys flirting with you, these 95-year-old guys flirting with you. She just laughed.
I would have loved to have seen her face when you said that, by the way.
Oh, my God. But I say it all the time. I go, there's no escaping me. I'm going to live till I'm 110, and that's it. I
love it, dude. Well, let me tell you, we laugh and kind of chuckle, but like, dude, that's becoming more and more of a real possibility if we take care of ourselves, right? And so
yeah, if we take care of ourselves. And I have my caveats, man. I love a great scotch. I love a great cigar, but I do hit the gym 4 or 5 times a week. I do take care of myself. We do eat rather healthy. We eat a lot of Caribbean food, which at the end of the day, if you go to the Caribbean, they're all alive. Like they live forever,
Yeah.
And, so and in my household, I've got a tremendous amount of love and support. I always joke about the fact that I've got all these women living in my house. My mom lives with me. My mother-in-law lives with me.
What a
my
blessing.
wife, 2 of my daughters, 2 out of the 4 daughters live at home. One of them had just moved out and she works for me. She does all my social media stuff. So, and then my oldest daughter lives in New Jersey, but she's getting married this summer. And so it's like, there's all this, like all these blessings in every direction. And I joke all the time. Like I say, dude, I live with so many women. People go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Are you okay?
A lot of estrogen in that household. Yeah.
Oh man, listen, I've got a joke that I've said a million times, but I'll tell it to you. So I don't know if you've heard it or not, but my joke is, you got to be careful how you speak to God in the universe, because when you're a little boy and you got posters of supermodels and nice cars and big houses on your wall, and you speak to God and you say, I want a big house, nice car, and be surrounded by beautiful women all the time, this is what you get. Yeah, right?
That's right. It wasn't exactly what you were thinking back then, but this is what God had in store for you.
Models. I ended up with 4 daughters, 2 moms, and a wife.
I love
but
it,
listen,
man.
it's a hell of a blessing. I'm surrounded by a tremendous amount of love and support. I work from home a lot, so oftentimes I can't even get away from my desk to grab something, and like a bowl of fruits will show up, or something like that, And while we were doing this podcast, a cup of coffee showed up, So
I love it, man. Dude, we're blessed, man, and you're inspiring a lot of people, man. So I have a lot of respect and admiration for content creators, thought leaders, people that are going out there with the heart to want to impact and help people. And yes, you're running a business, and you need to run a successful, profitable business so that you and we can help more people. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Cool, man. Well, Alex, thank you very much for doing this show with me. I know there's a lot of stuff that we didn't get into, so maybe we do a part 2. But I just found the storage world or the conversation in storage so fascinating. And I think we're going to inspire a lot of people to start looking into this. And so thank you for that. Thank you for inspiring our audience.
Yes, thank you, man. And again, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on here and just share. If people want to reach out and have a conversation about storage, or if they just have any questions, I mean, again, I'm here to be a resource and help and contribute, whether we work together or not. storagewins.com is a site that's currently being developed, and it'll be live by the time that this airs. And then, so storagewins.com, and then on social media at Alex Pardo 25 on Instagram.
Awesome, man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. If you're still listening, it means that you found this valuable. If you found this valuable, I'm going to go ahead and need you to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Make it happen. These are 4 little things you can do in like 6 seconds. Everybody knows how to like, everybody knows how to subscribe, everybody knows how to share it. Share it out to your social media, share it out to your friends, share it out to family members, share it out to people who think that the storage is too far-fetched, and now you're teaching them and helping them understand that it is a very close possibility. Share to people that might be cutting down on faith a little bit. We had a short conversation, but it was worth it, and I think we inspired people to do the right thing. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. We'll see you in the next episode with our next Freedom Achiever.